So any questions so far? I can solve any doubts or any confusions. No, well, it's good, no problem. Let me. So yes, we've started with first project management knowledge area, project integration management, right? And this is a kind of umbrella activity we are talking about. To start any project, you normally go through this integration area type of knowledge area where you create a couple of documents where you start basically the whole other 9 knowledge areas with a kind of summarized project plans, right? And that's how we're going to learn how to achieve a kind of great start in terms of initiating the project processes, right? And that's how we've started last time. We normally had discussed develop project charter, develop project management plan, and then we move to direct and manage project work, which is going to revise. We're going to revise it today. Okay, so no worries there. In develop project charters, the way we normally discuss is basically some inputs, some processing, and some outputs. And this is normally where each and every process, there are 49 process in and 10 knowledge area in typically addressing all nook and corners of project management processes, policies, and adoptions with the best practices. And that's how we're going to learn. Okay, I'll repeat again. Does anybody have any question, confusion, or any details which I can help with them in terms of understanding this thing better? Have you started learning, reading chapter 4? Hello, can you hear me? Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay, sure. Thank you, ma'am. So in develop charter, we take inputs as a business case, benefit management plan, various agreements, contractual terms, various contracts which are signed between these two organizations, then enterprise environmental factor and organizational process assets, right? Enterprise environmental factors, all the factors affecting on your projects from outside the organizations, and organizational process assets, which are basically a kind of supplementary policy processes adoptions or templatization standardizations adopted by your organizations to complete this project effectively, efficiently, with the help of lean management and so on and so forth. Then in tools and techniques we had to look at expert judgment, how SMEs, COEs, and various domain experts help us this project management, duties, responsibilities in the possible way of the adoption to the best practices, adoption to the best alternatives which we have did earlier. And then we do data gathering in terms of brainstorming, focus group interviews. We try to validate whatever business analysts have confirmed the knowledge on. We validate, verify those entities, and try to adopt to the best possible alternatives in terms of execution of a project, right? And then there are some interpersonal team skills which are mentioned here, specifically for every project manager as a first time leader, as a first time kind of teamwork, whatever we are contributing to the organizational gamut. And that's how we normally need to have something like a conflict management, where we try to reduce conflict progressively. We do facilitate with the various teams in terms of providing them with the best possible laptops, desktop tools, including software, any and all tools to be facilitated to the teams. Try to understand the best possible raw material can be procured from the market, help procure management, resource management to do the exact thing whatever you looking for your project. So here we are looking for a person who is leading a team to complete certain objectives, and that's what we call the project charter, or that's what we call the project core objectives. And there could be some subsidiary objectives also which kind of support the core project objective. And this is total we are talking about the list of requirement or the user story, whatever you adopted as to be gather the requirements from, know the feature list, function list for the given product, project, solution, support, development. Then the meeting management. As we know, there are lots of time and efficiencies wastage in the meeting. As a project manager, we need to make sure we try to control, try to strategically align meeting to the core objectives, to these requirement on whatever is needed basis. And then of course the scheduling of meeting. You can't schedule meeting left and right whenever we feel like that. Specifically, we need to validate the need, we need to validate the time and hours spent from a number of group members, number of team members, right? And that's why meeting management is a crucial part as far as the project managers does. The output is basically two documents: project charter, which includes requirement list, high level document, use case diagram, SWOT diagram, and any and all diagrams whatever we have developed during the SRS. Then we have assumption log. So assumption log is basically any and all assumptions you normally assume to get your project success. It can be everybody will come in the office and start working at a specified time. Somebody might get stuck up in the traffic, somebody's health not well, and all those things. So all these assumptions normally gets converted or normally gets applied to the risk register as a risks. And we normally try to address this risk with a score, impact analysis, cost analysis, and a person responsible for addressing those risks. And in case if something is not going as per the plan, this responsible person might escalate it to project manager or any other relevant team, so that that risk has to be mitigated or risk had to be audited, reviewed again, so that we don't normally disturb our plan, whatever we're going to make for executing this project, solution, support, services, whatever you're developing, enhancing, creating, and so on and so forth. Does that make sense? Anything which you haven't understood? I'll take it everybody understood whatever we discussed last time. Okay, now let's move on. Develop project management plan. Now this is a kind of mostly a Word document where we include all the other knowledge areas in terms of starting or initiating these plans. There's a plan initiation for scope management, schedule management, cost management, resource management, risk management, and so on and so forth. So there are total 9 knowledge area we address in terms of addressing the total project management, product management, solution management, or service management for the given execution at hand. And as a project leader, we are responsible for that. So this responsibility, we need to address it from addressing all the nook and corners as the management might require. And this is, we have come with the evolution of around 40-45 years of knowledge, 40-45 years of best practices study for a given management. The inputs to project management plans are the project charter, outputs from other processes. This is specifically mentioned if you are improving your management plan during the development, creation, enhancement of the projects, product, solution, support, and any of those things. We normally have to update these plans as per the changes we are adopting, and that's why they mention outputs from other processes. Then of course the EEFs and OPAs. These EEFs and OPAs are considered in each of these processes because anything which is affecting your project from external side or from newly adopted policies and processes have to be understood, have to be analyzed for the given executions. In tools and techniques, we normally consider SMEs, COEs, or subject matters experts to help us out. Project manager is also human, so he is basically not a person which you normally refer as know-it-all and master of none kind of scenario. So what we are looking for? We are looking for master of execution here, and we might need to have a bite of this and that, whatever required to achieve our objective, to achieve our core objective as mentioned in the project charter. And we do take help of all these masters of a particular entity, be it something like resource management, be it something like the functional knowledge of whatever product, solution, support we are developing, and so on and so forth. So we do take help from these expert judgment. The groups are normally called as a SME, COE. SME subject matter expert group, Center of Excellence group, or SCPG, Software process enhancement group, and so on and so forth. There are these groups which are normally referred at expert at the organization level, and we take help of these guys so that we don't miss anything in terms of any new process to be applied, any new alternatives we can choose to achieve best possible efficient way of executing the things at hand. Then again, the data gathering here, we do try to understand whatever is collected as a data requirement or any inputs to be given to our project policies and processes has to be understood, discussed. And that's why we normally plan brainstorming, a bit of checklist, focus group, and interviews. These are basically chaired by the project manager himself or herself, and they normally go through these iteration in terms of doing things better, doing things best way, so that whenever we try to achieve these execution, it will be efficient with the lean management, with the least possible wastage of cost or efficiencies. Again, they're referring to the same interpersonal team skills where we are talking about conflict management, facilitation, meeting management, and the meetings coordination itself. These are again similar lines. We try to avoid any conflicts, be it ego fights and all those things. Then facilitate with all the resources with the required man, material, machine kind of enterprise resources, so that my project execution goes unhindered, unobstructive, and so on and so forth. Meetings we just discussed. Project manager have to really careful on any wastage of discussions or any challenges thereof, so that all these meetings are perfectly or rather what you can say disciplinedly aligned towards the project objectives, rather than discussing on generic management or generic discussion in terms of news, in terms of any other thing other than the project objectives. Okay, and then we have meetings itself, and these meetings specifically talks about the scheduling of meeting when it's needed, rather than wherever somebody feels let's have a meeting, and those kind of scenario. So we need to prevent the efficient work hours to make sure we are in place. Well, PMI do support on building some non-formal communication channel, but again those basically a kind of addition to these meetings and meeting management, where we talk about specifically building some informal communication channel with a stakeholder, with our team members, so that in case of any challenge, personal or financial or any work related challenges, the team members should come to you as a leader for a guidance, and you can guide in terms of how it can be taken as a best possible addition to your project management plan, or a supporting way of doing his career alternative or career aspirations in terms of the projects or project objectives as well. And this is the balance we are going to learn in terms of resource management and in terms of communication management later on. So that's why this informal communication channel do help to make the other person more comfortable of discussing any and all things with project manager. But again, we need to manage our time also, so that's also kind of a supporting way we need to find out within given career aspirations versus project objectives. And that's what we're going to learn in resource management specifically. The outputs to develop project management plan are the project management plan itself, which might have 9 different chapters, like project cost management, project schedule management, project scope management, and so on and so forth. Okay, there's a defined sequence of these knowledge area whenever we start learning the other knowledge area in depth one by one. First is basically the scope, so understanding what we need to do. Then we go on the schedule. We try to apply schedule to the scope, where we get an idea what we need to do, how long it will take to get this thing done, and then we deduce how many resources do we need, what type of resources do we need. And that's how at this initial stage we are building a kind of a concrete processes to be followed for development or creation enhancement of the work at hand. And that's how this project management plan is looked at as a summarized way of managing these project solution support services, whatever we are starting to develop, create, enhance, from here forth. That's why this project management plan is basically a summarized plan. We are going to develop specific management plans in all these 9 knowledge area afterwards. Okay. Does anybody have any question, confusion at this moment? Am I audible, right? Hello?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, no problem. If you have any confusion, please say so, or you can say I don't have any question at this moment, because otherwise I keep on going talking. These are my favorite topics, and I'm a kind of passionate trainer. So please do stop me if I'm going too fast, or if you couldn't understand any of these topics. Okay, let me move on. Now, this is the most important processes to start with, where we basically try to get the work done, and this is called direct and manage project work. Here we are leading the project work as a project manager, and then basically managing the overall executions in a step-by-step manner. So the inputs to this direct and project management work are project management plan, any documents. All these 10, one is integration project management plan, and then the other 9 project management plan, which are normally a Microsoft Word document. All these management plans are considered as input. Then other project documents are here. If you are at the start of a project, then you might create this document. Otherwise, you update or you review this document in terms of change log. Any change accepted, approved, or any change suggested, and then we can label it sanctioned, approved, accepted, and so on and so forth. Then lessons learned register. This is normally what we call the knowledge archival system, where we archive this knowledge so that if anybody have done this thing previously, how we can adopt those policies and processes to execute our work efficiently. Or if you're doing anything better than others which have achieved earlier, you might want to add your new policies, processes, techniques to this knowledge management plan, saying if you did this way, you might save some cost, you might get the work done effectively, efficiently, and all these such related policies and processes. Then the milestone list is basically the goals we are trying to achieve, and these milestones are basically the work completion, whatever work or activities or task we have assigned to any of the resources, or any of the resources working on anything, their completion date is called milestone. We're going to study these milestone definition in depth whenever we're going to do project schedule management, where you normally schedule all these task completion with a date and time in mostly hourly basis. So any and all tasks, whatever we include in the schedule, are normally included as an hours. And we're going to learn a great deal of how we plan these things, how we build these milestone lists. Okay. Then we have project communication. Now these project communications talk about all the communications done by project manager, in terms of the project manager's communication done with the team member, where he have maximum influence. Then with the PMOs, auditors, or reviewers of the world within your organizations. Then we normally communicate to the stakeholder also. So how to manage this communication? What type of tools are we going to use? What type of mechanism, in terms of, do you need to call that person after sending a mail? In some organizations, this is a kind of rudimentary thumb rule, like when you send a mail, call to that person and check out if he received the mail, and make sure he have read your mail. But in most of the organizations, when you send mail, it's assumed that the other person might read within next couple of hours or something like that. And how to adopt these policies and processes or the best practices. Then project schedule. We start project scheduling whenever we try to understand the expectation which are basically expressed implicitly by the client, by the stakeholders, where I want these a solution to be developed before Christmas. So Christmas, as we know, is on 25th December. So we need to make sure we cover all those creation, enhancement, quality control, quality assurance type of activities before 24th of December. Because on 24th of December, we will deliver this product to the client, right? And so on and so forth. So we need to plan proactively. So we start building this schedule. Not always you have end in sight in terms of with a fixed day of delivery. You might build the delivery date or the milestone depending upon the work at hand, depending upon the resource availability also. Even throughout during the project, we might change the schedule. Might be because of some health challenges, might be because of some enterprise environmental factor where we talk about anyone health is not okay, or some challenges like COVID and all as well. So we keep building this project schedule in a step-by-step evolutionary or progressive manner. Then of course we have RTM, requirement traceability matrix, so that we have all these requirements which are listed there. Then these requirements are assigned with whenever we start discussion, whenever that requirement got initiated, in which meeting, who have approved, who have sanctioned, and then how we are going to convert these requirement to the feature list, product features and all those things. So all these RTM is a kind of a reference table, specifically an Excel sheet, but there could be a Word document as well. Again, depending upon the organization's policies and procedure adopted, we normally have requirement traceability matrix, which is a kind of very crucial and important document to track the project progress, to understand how we have collected the requirement, how we got sanctioned them, when we got sanctioned them, how we have assigned scenario, priority, and all these attributes to these requirements. Then we have risk register. This concept might be new to few, or many of you might have gone through this risk register. Again, an Excel sheet. Like the RTM, this here, rather than requirement, we have risks. So we normally list down all the risks. We normally give them a score. We normally give them, impact and impact weightage. We normally give them a cost weightage. We normally give them a person assigned to that requirement. So normally, if you talk about resource attrition type of risk, and these risks are common, so normally included in every risk register. So there's a risk of attrition of resources. Attrition means the resources leaving the organizations, leaving the project because of his or her personal gains, and this is a common risk. So out of 10 resources, there could be 1 or 2 resources who are looking for better opportunity, might be for their career aspirations and all those things. So we need to add these risks to understand. Now, who do you think will be correct risk responsible person for such risk? Anybody can guess? Who takes care of the resources and their career aspirations, their work appraisals, and so on and so forth? Anybody? Hello? I believe we all manage resource one way or the other. So you might know these things. Try it on your own, means give it a try, at least. Anybody? Oh man, am I audible? Yes, am I audible? Could you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay, no, no. So these are normally done by the resource manager. Please do participate because otherwise it's a monologue, right? I keep on discussing, I keep on giving my idea of management. You should basically try to think it through, like when it comes to something like managing a risk of resources, we normally have a resource manager. Again, resource manager might be part of your team or might not be part of your team, but again, he's a kind of subject matter experts in managing the resources. So like that, we have all this risk register built. Then whenever we review this register in terms of any risk materialized, any risk the risk has been occurred, risk has been impacted, like one of the resources leaving your project team because he or she put in his or her papers. Now this is a kind of risk materialization, so there's an impact to it. So we're going to lose a resource. So we need to bring in new resource. We need to teach him how to work, what to work, what is the core objective, what are the subsidiary objective, what are the work items you in terms of execution, creation, enhancement you're going to do, and so on and so forth. So all these things take some time. So normally whenever a resource leaves a project team, there's a learning curve involved of a new team member. And for such scenario, what we do normally, we normally align some bench resources to work with your project team. And these are again a kind of adopted best practices by good number of companies. But again, depending upon the companies you normally start working with, the bench resources might or might not available for your domain, for your nature of work. So again, it depends on availability. It depends on the market demand and supply kind of scenario also. So that's how we normally review risk almost weekly basis. As a person, as a project, I do review risk on almost daily basis, and we'll discuss all these risk register, risk review, risk template, how we formulated risk, and so on and so forth in depth whenever we do risk management knowledge area. And all these document 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9, so all these 8 9 items which are included as an input to direct and manage work. This is how we normally start directing and managing our day-to-day project management activity. We do review change log on almost daily basis. So whenever we have daily scrum meet where we normally review today's task, or rather yesterday's completed task, today's task, and tomorrow's task. So we normally discuss these three items whenever we whenever we have daily scrum meet. And this is a best practices normally followed, right? So these are kind of understanding for building the overall project management plans effective, or implementing the project management plan on the ground. And this is how we do direct and manage project work. Then again, there's another list called approve change request. In most of the organizations, there are two lists. One is called change log. Any changes you've discussed is normally included there. In approved change request, any of such change requests which are approved, sanctioned, and accepted. Again, there are a couple of processes here. Approved means normally the client approves it. Sanction means there's a scenario attached to it, there's a priority attached to it. And then accepted in the sense your organization's either change control board or some configuration manager who accept that thing in terms of your development plan. And these are the three possible steps for any changes to be accepted, sanctioned, and included in your work chart. And that's how we have to consider approved change request in terms of all these details are being reflected in the requirement traceability matrix. And of course, we have EEFs and OPS to help us out to execute these direct and managed project work effectively, efficiently, with the least possible cost. Any confusion so far on inputs of direct and managed project work?
No, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Please, say something so that I know you're listening, and it gives you a kind of two-way communication. I know I need to guide you, mentor you on these, but again, we also have our own thought processes. And if you feel anything like or if you have any thought process which are contradictory to these, please do ask questions so that you get the granularity till the last end. Okay, and that's how we learn ourselves, right? Okay, now the tools and techniques in direct and managed project work are basically expert judgment. Again, the CMEs and SME to help us out in case if you couldn't plan it well. Okay, and we'll discuss this expert judgment in depth with a case study whenever we do the project schedule management, right? Let me admit. Okay, then we have project management information system. Now try to understand this PMIS. This is one of the most what you can say digitization of the management type of tools we were using from late 1960s 70s. In those good old days, the project management system used to be a table where we have number of projects being executed by an organization, and this table is normally handled by the CEO, CFO, CTO, MDs of the world, where they refer to each and every project in understanding how these projects are being run. Are there any challenges in terms of the projects are being in red in terms these projects need very critical help. Project in red means they are really derailed, or what I can say, deviated project, or they're the plan has been not very great in terms of those projects. There are yellow project in the sense, well, they are going into the danger zone, so we need to stop them. In terms of, we need to provide some help, be it something like providing expert, be it something like providing some additional resources, some bench resources, some quality management resources, and so on and so forth. So this PMI system is a kind of a dashboard, as we normally refer to, where all these top management keep an eye on your project, and there are number of list of projects, right? For a given organizations, be it a car manufacturing company, the projects like assembling the car with the robots, projects like testing the engine which are imported from, let's say, China, Korea, whatnot, testing the car's interiors, is it good, or is it really smelly, or depending upon your requirements, depending upon your work at hand, you normally tend to validate the overall plan progress in terms of hourly basis. So all these reports normally in today's world, this PMI system getting or collecting the data automatically from your project management software. So if you're using something like Microsoft Project, if you're using something like Jira, if you're using something like Primavera, these are the most used project management system. Microsoft Project being the most used across North America and Canadian market. Here we are talking about all these data automatically picked up by the PMIS and published it in a web page or an Android app. And these apps or the web pages normally referred as a dashboard. So somebody talking about dashboard, they're talking about the PMI system, where you normally supplying all details of your project in terms of a summarized way to display these details to the top management, so that in case they get a gist of it, like how your project is doing. If it's in a green, well, that's really great thing. That's kind of achievement by itself, and that's what we need to strive for. That's how we progress step by step in terms of keeping our project in green, keeping a project or keeping our engagement profitable. That's how we normally keep progressing our project execution in a step by step manner. Then we have various meetings we normally have, including that daily scrum meet, where we normally review our daily work in terms of previous day's work, today's work, and tomorrow's planning, so that we'll make sure we are on track every time, every day. In case if something going wrong, we might escalate this to the top management, saying, hey management, I might require one or two people, because there are too many change requests being given by the client, and then the top management might initiate a new contract, and there could be something like time and material type of contract, like we are giving two more resources for this project, but these resources will be charged at $40 per hour, and these are over and above of whatever we are charging in terms of the total project cost, because you have shared extra additional work than whatever we have planned for. And not to derail project is our intention, and I think you also support to that, and that's why the client will also support those things. And that's how we normally even manage our work proactively. And that's why we normally might have some extra meeting plan for such negotiation, such diplomatic talks. It can be Google Meet, Zoom Meet, or whatever, as per your organizational policies and processes. Then the outputs are actual deliverables. So whatever you created, validated, tested, the deliverable is given to this client, so that they can integrate it within their system and start using those things. The work performance data. Normally work performance data, where we talk about number of hours spent on a particular task, right? And we plan it out. Now, whenever you commit such work, we normally try to understand, are we going to the plan? Means if somebody says I'll take 5 hours to complete this task. He or should take 5 hours or less than that. If it's more than 5 hours, our plan is getting damaged. Our plan is getting skewed, right? And for all such, um, either committed work or a kind of normal efficiency might get normal efficiency figure might get disturbed. So we need to understand this work performance data in terms of a resource completing work on time, and we normally collect all these numbers from thing called timesheets, for thing called number of hours allocated for that task and actual number of hours or minutes we use to complete that task, activity or work item. And that's how we we build our work performance data reports from the project management software itself. Then issue log. There's a very small difference between issue and change. Issue in the sense, issue can be changed as well as a rework. Now let's understand the rework here. You developed something, you given it to the client, and client say, no. The web page color is not mera wala green, or whatever the green I want is much more lighter than this darker green or something like that. So there's an issue, there's a rework on that, work item which I've just delivered. Now this rework can be an issue. Issue in the sense, a kind of rework, whatever is not as per the expectation of a client. So he or she, the client stakeholder, might give you an change request or might give you an issue in terms of, he say, no, this might looks like a defect because this is not the color which we have expected. So we need to change that. And that's why there's an issue log here, or a change request. Change request in the sense, no. There are two buttons, right? Please add another button. Or, this car looks okay, but I believe if the, car wheels are a bit bigger, I'll be more comfortable in such car because we have lots of, potholes or something like that. Or the car wheels might be wider. And these type of change requests do comes to car manufacturers, believe me. But again, there's a cost ratio, manufacturing cost ratio, selling cost, and all those costs. If you change any such item, the cost might get, deferred, right? On all such scenario, if both the parties do agree, then we might add the cost to the project. But overall, whenever there's an issue or change request at play here, we need to consider the necessary repercussions on the cost, schedule, and everything else as well. But still, there are outputs like issue log and the change request. Again, there's some body called change request board, which can be a single person or a multiple person within the development organization. So it's with the organization which we are working for as a project manager. Now this change control board normally sanctions or estimates the work in terms of number of hours, number of resources required, skill of resources required, and the time needs to get complete. Because whenever you add a new task, the overall project management plan get updated accordingly. So that the work, if you add it in a current sprint, current development cycle, we need to understand the additional work has to be allocated to an additional resources, because we already planned the task activities with a given sprint, with a given phase. So any additions need to be added with the resource, so that he or she can address that task with the other team members as well. Now these type of addition has to be approved, has to be sanctioned depending upon organizational policies and processes. This change control board basically accepts such request and then guides project manager where you can basically add this change request. In a current sprint, normally that's not advisable. In the next sprint, yes, that's the normally best opted option. And that's how we normally adopt this issue log and change request. Anybody have any confusion in understanding issue log or change request? So you can consider issue log as, if you're making tea, I couldn't find tea powder or I couldn't find tea masala. In terms of change request, well, rather than my day-to-day teapot, I might need to use some different teapot. Do you get the idea or the difference between issue log and change request? The show must go on, right? We couldn't stop for all such what you can say small issue or big issue or anything like that. And that's why we need to be on our toes to adopt all such scenarios. Well, there might be an extra cost, there will be a bit of delay, and that's understandable. But still, there might not be too much delay, or there might not be delay which is affecting the development organizations being penalized, like the SLA clause, like it has to be delivered before 30th May, and so on. So then, of course, we update project management plan, any and all components for all such issue log and change request accepted, sanctioned, approved, and so on and so forth. The project documents update are activity list. Now, activity list is normally referred as work item list or work list or a task list as well. This is a list of activities which is created after decomposing the requirements or decomposing the user story, where what needs to be done for a given requirement. If the requirement is at certain office, rather than a biometric, please install iris scanner for notifying the attendance. For all such scenario, we need to make sure all these activities list are traced back to a requirement, and it's kind of part of RTM also. So you have a requirement which is decomposed, which is basically broken into something like activity list. So what all the activity needs to be done on the ground is normally mentioned in the activity list. Then we have assumption logs. Any and all assumptions we normally reflect it with the risk register as well. Then we have lessons learned register. This is what we talk about, the knowledge archival. Whatever you are doing better than others, which we have achieved earlier, has to be mentioned to others also, so that they can also work effectively, get the work done efficiently at an organizational level as well. And that's why we normally keep sharing such knowledges within our organizations to make sure they also learn from might be our mistakes or our best practices adoption. Then we have requirement document. This specifically talk about the RTM. So if there are any updates in RTMs, you might have included issues or changes, and then the RTM has to be updated for all such requests accepted by the development team, by the project team. Then there's a risk register. As you normally update the assumption log, the respective risks are also being added to the risk register. And then there's a stakeholder register. Now this is a new thing. Stakeholder register basically is a list of stakeholders where we normally try to understand who have initiated a particular requirement. Does he or she have all the details which is required to basically complete that requirement? Even when you decompose the requirement to an activity list, work item list, or a task list, there we might need to get some details from such executives, such stakeholder. So have you completed that? And above and all, we maintain a stakeholder register where we know who's going to sanction which part of a requirement. And then we need to make sure we contact them at a right time, the right moment, or right way, because some person might feel better if you call them, or if you send them a WhatsApp message, or if you send them an email, or you just meet them personally, and so on and so forth. So we need to respect all such requests in terms of getting our requirements sanctioned, approved, and so on and so forth. So that's why these are called critical stakeholders, who are a kind of authorized figures who try to sanction your work in terms of the monetary disbursal, the payments and those processes, in terms of number of tasks to be added to the current work, or the priorities to be shifted, and so on and so forth. So all these stakeholders are really crucial to your project success, or even they guide the success to your project in terms of, okay, yes, this project is, these tasks are completed, now we can move on other tasks, and something like that. That's why the stakeholder register is one of the most crucial documents any project manager should review on almost daily basis. And we have a detailed stakeholder knowledge management area where we discussed major in terms of all such stakeholder registers, the list and the content of that list. And then of course we might update certain organizational process assets to make sure if you have adopted any better practices than the practices adopted by the organization previously. And that's how we keep learning progressively. We keep getting better day by day. Could you get a gist of whatever we're doing here? We are actually directing and managing the project work as a leader. This is the project manager does. Are you with me? Or have you missed anything which I might need to explain again? Anybody? Are we good?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. If you have any question, please do ask. Okay, no problem. Now, this is a kind of repetition where we normally do in terms of what all things we do, and this is also one way the project management book revises these things. So in chapter 4.3.1, which is kind of direct and manage project work, the inputs are mentioned like there are 5 inputs in terms of project management plan, project documents, approved change requests, EEF and OPS. This we have just discussed. Only I want to share these things with you. Whenever you read, these are the description given like in para formats in PMbook. So please do read these things. Okay. Then let me play you a small video just to understand from a different trainer's perspective. So so no queries so far. Could we go ahead? Am I audible? Can you?
Yes, sir.
Okay, sure. So no questions so far. Okay, let me move on. No problem. So then we have manage project knowledge. Now this is what the knowledge is. Knowledge archival is all about. So here we are talking about how to adapt to the best practices, how to improve our policies and processes progressively for a given organizations. And here we are archiving the knowledge. We are collecting the knowledge as we go. Okay, so here normally we consider the knowledge archive from any and all components of a project management plan. Basically, there are total 10 management plans, starting with integration management plan, which is a kind of summarized project management plan. Then we have a scope management plan, schedule management plan, cost management plan, a resource management plan, and so on and so forth. So all these components are considered for direct and managed project knowledge. Here we are archiving the knowledge. Whatever the best practices we have learned earlier, the project manager will get a hint from them, try to adopt to the best practices. If he or she feels I can improve it more, he also can share those thought process with the other counterparts, other colleagues within his organization. So project management plan, any and all components is an input as well as output. Then we have project documents, lessons learned register, previous knowledge archival, a similar project like yours, if executed by the organizations, how they've done it, what type of knowledge they have archived there for me so that I can take a help from it. Can I just extend that project management plan in terms of Microsoft project document to start my project management plan? Yes or no, and all those things. Okay, here also there are experts to help us out in a progressive learning manner. Then we have project team assignment. These are the activities, task, work item assigned to the team members. So Ravindra is going to the St. Louis office of State Farm and installing 6 biometrics at the St. Louis office. It's a task allocated to Ravindra, and Ravindra with 4 others will go there from wherever your office location is and execute those tasks in a given time period, given days, hours, or week, something like that. So these type of project team assignments are taken as an input in terms of how could we do it effectively. If Ravindra finds a way to reach there effectively, so rather than a public transport, he might rent a car and just drive down early in the morning from, let's say, Chicago to St. Louis. It's like 2.5 hours drive. Install the thing, and if there's a need, he might stay overnight. He might validate, verify those installation, and the next day night or evening they can come back to the Chicago. So the work done in 2 days. It's like 8 and 9, 16 hours. So something like that we do plan in our Microsoft project plan or a Jira or any project management software for that matters. And these are called project team assignments. Okay, and these team assignments are taken as an input to manage project knowledge. So whatever you learn, whatever we achieved in terms of efficient work executions to be considered a knowledge. Resource breakdown structure. Who is going to do what? So Ravindra, being a team lead for that task, can help others as well. So he is basically carrying those, 5, 6, 7 biometric machine to be installed at the St. Louis office. There he have, 3 or 4 resources with him. One is a kind of network person, another kind of software person. Third can be cloud engineer or cloud service provider contract, coordinator, and so on and so forth. And this way they get the work done as a team. So you get the work done as a team in parallel and then achieve the completion as early as we can, as effectively as we can. Normally the work done parallelly does help us out in completing the overall project in time, on budget. If the works get delayed, even there is a cost of extra hours to be spent for quality control, quality assurance, and all those subsidiary tasks as well. So that's why resource breakdown structure is an important part to make sure whatever we are doing it effectively, efficiently, and with the least possible cost attached to it. Then source selection criteria. Now these are also kind of crucial whenever it comes to the raw material. So raw material here, let's consider raw material as those biometric system or iris scanner systems. These systems, the cost might vary from something like $20-$30 to $200-$300. I'm talking about the biometric system. Now all these systems have their own ways and means of justification of their cost. Should we go for the costliest one, or should we believe the costliest is the best quality? Well, again, depend on what you are doing. How's your knowledge in terms of understanding those biometric system? So here I might involve a COE or SME who might have installed biometrics machines before. Now he or she can guide me which is the best, which is the cost optimum solution. And then whatever additional we need to do from other sides can be also understood in terms of the cost requirement, effort requirement, and so on and so forth. So that's how solution criteria is a crucial part in terms of getting things done effectively, efficiently, and collecting the knowledge of it as well. Again, the stakeholder register. So here I'm more or less concentrated on the task at hand and the corresponding resources at hand. Normally, there's a representative assigned to you from a client side in terms of all such coordinations. And this can be a critical stakeholder. Now, critical stakeholder is a stakeholder who is responsible for giving you all the approval sanctions and basically guiding you on in terms of if the work completions or not. And these things are really crucial for your project progress. Unless and until you get a sanction or get an approval of work completion, in many of the organizations, you can't raise a bill or an invoice to that person or to that organization. That's why these stakeholders are very crucial to your project progress of achieving the milestone. And that's why we have to get their sanction approval, in terms of the work has been done. Again, the deliverables, whatever deliverables you are delivered, are they of optimum quality? Are the clients are basically happy with whatever you delivered, or at least satisfied? Satisfaction is a neutral ground. Okay, yes, we asked for a pen, you give me a pen, and those kind of scenario. In normal project management, as far as the matured modern project management policies and processes, we don't believe in value add. So if you are giving a car, you don't normally give anything free with the car because it adds to the cost. Again, depending upon your cost model, you might or might not do such thing. But in terms of actual management of a project solution support services, we don't believe in giving any add-on at the cost of whatever we have agreed to. And that's why all these deliverables are just to make sure this is what I'm what you asked and this is what you're going to get. If you want anything add, there might be an extra charges or extra delays in terms of deliverables. That's why the deliverables is just a single word, but it means so many things for so many different stakeholders. Being a project manager, for me a deliverable is a kind of exact thing to be delivered at an exact point which has already discussed, approved, sanctioned. For an architect, for an designers, this can be, is it the best possible way to deliver it? Could we package it better? Could we make it shine or something like that? For a developer, oh man, okay, I got this thing, the work done, and the quality control also said okay, so let's deliver it as early as possible. Quality control, yes, I have approved this deliverable, now let's give it to the client. We believe it's according to the requirement, in conformance with requirement, and so on and so forth. That's how the deliverables have a different meaning to different team members. And as a project manager, we need to coordinate all such scenario. We need to understand all these difference of opinion or difference of way to look at a single thing and make sure we deliver it in the conformance, in the completion of itself. Does that make sense? Or anybody have, okay, somebody have a question. Non-functional, yes, very rightly said, Shruti man. So here we are talking about non-functional and functional requirement, both completion for a given deliverable. Very rightly said. Thank you. Thanks a lot for that. And of course, we have environmental, enterprise environmental factor and organizational process assets to understand the knowledge required for these deliveries. Various tools and techniques we are talking about start with a expert judgment, SME review as well. So these deliverables, before giving it to the client, I might get it reviewed, I might get it sanctioned by our internal SME as well. And this is a standard processes for all critical deliverable, either cost critical, schedule critical, or mission critical deliverables to be sanctioned, to be approved by a SME or COE or SCPG within your organization. The other tools and techniques is knowledge management. Now this knowledge management, now why they have mentioned it separately? Because see, knowledge management or adoption to the solution of knowledge management is a process itself. So we are talking about, are you using a software to manage your knowledge? Are you using something like video blogging? Are you using audio blogging? Are you using documentation management as a knowledge management? Again, depending upon all these thought processes which are adopted by your organization, all these knowledge management depend on that. All these information management, how are you going to manage the archived information? Are you going to use document management system? Are you going to use SharePoint servers? And all such solutions we need to understand in terms of how we're going to manage these knowledge. And that's what the overall tools and technique in knowledge management is all about. Again, there are specific interpersonal skills and team skill mentioned here for project managers to have to develop. Active listening. Well, I'm not a good listener. Means that's my fault. I am a talkative person. But here again, if you know your faults, you know how to address them, right? And so you need to develop an active listening behavioral skill. Then facilitation. Facilitate to the team members, facilitate to the stakeholder, answer them, acknowledge their questions, and all those things. These are also kind of listening skill or responsive skills. Then we have leadership skill, to lead the team, to lead the stakeholder in terms of if they have any challenge in understanding, if they have any even noise in understanding also, we need to address those things as a ownership person. Then we have networking. Networking is basically what you can say, vastly confused topic. Networking normally means, and I would really give you a kind of homework, please try to search what do you mean by networking by yourself. To me, networking is building a network of resources, building a network of friends and colleagues to help you out to achieve your goals. Here we are talking about the project goals, but in a day-to-day life, it's a life skill. Let's say you have a neighbor and who is kind of working for a car rental company. Okay, now you say hi, good morning, how are you, and all those things as a normal way American citizen or Canadian citizen do work. And as you know, there could be a bit of different distance between both of your houses. So in those scenario, you have to take some extra step to make sure you know that person. So in case if you need to rent a car, you might take a help from him or her, saying, hey neighbor, what do you think if I want to drive to Niagara with my 3 family member, which is the best car, comfortable, economical, and blah 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 thing. And you might sit with him, you might do a meeting extra to understand his or her view and try to adopt them for your own usage. And he or she might not charge consultancy charges as normally charged in North America. But here, these networking do help us out in day-to-day project work as well. If you know somebody who knows about biometric, you might call him or her and ask, hey friend, what do you think if I want to use biometric, which is the best biometric available and why? And he might share all his knowledge in a couple of minutes. This is what the networking is all about. You basically make a list of friends, you basically network with different personality, different human beings, and that's what the networking means to me. Again, the thought processes can be differed with a different person. You might say networking in the sense, have a look at Happy Place. Again, depending upon your approach, please do search on networking and try to find what networking means to you. Okay, let's not get contradictions, but let's share idea. There's not right or wrong again here. We are learning to learn. We are learning to understand how we could work effectively for a given task at hand. And that's what the networking is all about for a given project, for a given executions. Again, political awareness. Now here, awareness means you are aware of the facts. You are aware of the political scenarios, not to discuss them, not to create rumors, not to waste time, but to basically make sure, understand the political scenarios in terms of stabilized region, in terms of really stable markets, and so on and so forth. So these are again interpersonal and team skills. Project management, PMI, Project Management Institute, wants you to believe, wants you to understand them in a progressive manner. I always believe researching and networking helps. Yes, very rightly said, ma'am. And it's a basically evolutionary skill. So always do research. You might use Google to research, as simple as that, or you might use Chat GPT. It's a new tool. You can ask question and get knowledge too. So if you have a time, please do search on a YouTube for Chat GPT, GPT. I'll write it in our WhatsApp group. Please, this is a new skill. Chat GPT. Okay, have a look at this thing. Yeah, it's a lifesaver. It's really great tool. It's evolving tool. So don't believe everything what it says. Same thing with Google. Try to validate it with couple of sites, couple of different web portals. And networking do helps. How do you validate? You might check with Google and call a friend saying, hey friend, this is what I read on Google. What do you think? Is it right or is it wrong? Believe me, there are a good number of persons who normally search for a disease on the Google and then consult doctor. No, please don't do that. First consult doctor, then you can search for what type of treatment have you given, is this type of medicine is suitable, or what this medicine is for, and search for a couple of different sites so that you know the medicine which that doctor have suggested you is a right fit or might have some harmful side effects, then how to request doctor for another medicine, and so on and so forth. So you can improve your life in a great depth with just the networking or a research and network kind of thought process. Very rightly said. Thank you, Shruti ma'am. Now let's go ahead and understand the output. Of course, the output is lessons learned register. This can be a knowledge portal, which is normally called as a knowledge portal, somewhere on the cloud of somewhere in the cloud of your organizations, where you might have let's say Pertini learning portal or something like that. Depending upon the organization you work for, you have different portals where you can search for all these lessons learned earlier. Then the project management plan updates. Any and all project management plans updates are normally considered as an output for the knowledge management policy and processes. Say whatever you do, it needs to have some time, right, to write down a page document and archive it in a lesson learned register takes time. It's not about the length and breadth of the page. It's basically about the how much thought process you need to put into that in terms of building that document with the correct knowledge, right? And that's what all these updates are required. So there is a knowledge management update for scheduling, for costing, for lane management, and you need to archive such knowledge in such a relevant area. Normally in the induction workshops, be it a consultant induction workshop or employee induction workshop, all these organizations trained you on how to use knowledge portal or what is expected out of you as a member. You are a project manager, you are a CEO, CTO, developer, tester, architect, designer. Depending upon your job roles and responsibility, you might be contributing to the actual knowledge portal to archive the best possible knowledge and processes. Even the standardization and templatation can be updated via organizational process assets update. This is what we normally call as a organizational quality management policies. So you can add it to your best practices and policies you have adopted for a given project there as well. Does that make sense? Anybody have any confusion or any details I could explain in depth for managed project knowledge? We are good, right? Hello, can you hear me? Anybody?
Yes, yes.
Okay, thank you, Rahul sir. Let's go ahead. The next is monitor and control project work. This is an ongoing activity. Yeah, well, of course. See, when we started these things, there are these 5 process groups, right? One is initiating, where we created all initial document of project charter. Then we go to the planning process group, where we build these plans. These are normally explanatory document, mostly in the Word. Then we have executing process group. In executing process group, we have done things, we have created things, we have enhanced things. Now we are monitoring and monitoring and controlling process group, where we monitor and control. We monitor our progress, we control our project in terms of checking what can we do better, how I can increase efficiency, how I can get it done earlier with the least cost, and so on. So that's what this monitoring and process controlling group is. And then integrated change control is all about collecting it together, building it together, and then delivering it to the client. And then the last is closing process group. Whatever we have achieved, we have to bundle it together, give it to the client, and get their satisfaction in terms of customer satisfaction surveys and all those policies and processes adopted by your organization. Okay, let's try to understand 4.5 monitor and control project work. The inputs to monitor and control project works are project management plan, all the components. The project documents, again, similar project documents where we talk about assumption logs, any and all assumptions we have considered, which has to be included in our risk register as well. Basis of estimate, this is a new thing. Now here, we are trying to understand how much time is needed for a task and how to monitor and control it. When Ravindra says he'll take 24 hours to install all those 6 biometric machine and get it tested and complete, that's an estimation given by him. Now we might check with Ravindra. Hey Ravindra, what's the basis of your estimate? So there are a few basis of estimates we are going to learn in our project scheduling knowledge area, where project management have suggested 4 of them, and we learn the additional 2 as well. So basis of estimate is basically a scientific way of estimating how much hours or how much efforts are needed for a given task. So when you install a biometric on the wall, how much time will it take? We need to make sure we'll first that biometric, making sure before fixing it on a wall, I'll make sure that biometric machine is working. Then I might pull out certain hole making machine, certain plugs to go into that hole so that the screws, whatever I tighten, it's fixed. Then I take the biometric machine and the required nut and bolts to fix that biometric to the overall wall. The whole process might take anything between an hour to couple of hours, again depending on the resources. And for that, we might to validate all these basis of estimate. Why Ravindra is saying so many hours? In actual, any SME or COE can justify that. Okay, when he says 3 hours, okay, that's reasonable time. If he says 8 hours, no, that's too much. We need to understand from him what his basis of estimate. Then cost forecast. When you have task, activity, schedule, and a resource attached to it, you can derive a cost. So Ravindra's 4 hours for fixing that biometric machine to the wall takes 4 hours. So now we can derive a cost, a resource, time and schedule and efforts, whatever required for to complete a task or activity. Normally you can derive a cost, and these are basically, whenever we plan, we derive this forecast because the work has not completed yet. It's in a progress or is going to start, and that's why these are called cost forecast. So these many activities might require these many dollars in terms of efforts, in terms of salary, in terms of other operational cost or asset costs. We're going to learn all these things in depth in our project cost management knowledge area. Then issue log. Similarly, any additional issues pop up whenever you start work. Like they say you need to fix the biometric near the door, which is basically kind of the column, right? The concrete column. You can't normally drill down to that column because it affects structural integrity. So you might need to fix it in terms of use some adhesive paste or something like that and fix it on the wall, or have a ways and means of attaching it to that wall. Again, this has to be understood, discussed, and then resolved. So there could be an issue. So these discussions might take, let's say, 30 minutes. That's kind of addition to that task, right? Are you with me on these? Could you understand what I'm trying to say here? So all such issues has to be addressed, and these issues might pop up whenever you start doing work. And for that, we have all these issue logs mentioned in terms of monitoring and control project work to consider all such disturbance in your planned project schedule, and all those other planned cost, risk and assumptions as well. Again, lessons learned register. So whatever repetitive additions, we might say we need to pad these tasks with all these repetitive additions from a typical client. And that's how you might replan your project to get it executed better. And you might reach to a near practical planning where whatever you plan is more concrete, more realistic than other managers. And that's how the maturity of project managers get measured. And all such best practices has to be archived as a knowledge in the organizational knowledge repository via lessons learned register type of processes. Again, milestone lens, which is considered as an input. So what we need to monitor? Milestone. Are they getting completed on the planned date or not, or they are getting proactively completed? Again, we need to understand how these milestones have planned and how the project manager is addressing these milestones one after another. Then we have quality reports. Quality reports in terms of the performance of resources. Resources being man, material, machine. Man is the human resource, materials are the raw material, and machines are the machines like laptop, desktop, robots, and other machines which we use to get the work completed. So all these three to be understood in terms of what type of quality we are getting. Do we need to replace any of those raw material or a human resource or any machines for that matters? And we are consider this as an input to monitor and control project work. Could we do better? This is a basic question in monitoring and controlling project work. Then of course the risk register, whatever we've assumed, we've added to the risk register, and we do a review of this risk register, and we generate a risk report for a specific time on a specific day. And this risk report, we need to understand, are we changing any new thing? Are there any new changes to my project plan, change request to be added to my project task, activity, and so on and so forth. Then schedule forecast. We are going to forecast our project completion, and that's we can call it as a milestone list as well. But they mention it separately because this forecast can be for within team forecast, like when the said delivery going to get given to the testing team. And these are kind of schedule forecast within our team we are talking about. Then of course, work performance information. Whatever human resources, raw material or machines you are using in your project have to be understood in terms of how's their performance, is it up to the mark, is it as we've thought of, as we planned for, or if there's a degradation or there's an improvement, and so on and so forth. So here we might do a trade-offs in terms of cost. Let's not get the new machine, but let's work with the old machine because we don't have so much budget for that right now, and so on and so forth. So we have to take such decision in terms of work performance data to the cost ratio as well. Then of course, are there any additional agreement in terms of monitoring and controlling project work, specifically those penalty clauses, the SLA penalty clauses, where it talks about you need to complete this work before such and such date, or otherwise you might penalize with such monetary value or something like that. Then you have enterprise environmental factor and organizational process assets to help you out to monitor and control project work. In terms of tools and techniques, we have expert judgment, all the CME and SME, to make sure you have adopted the best practices to execute your project. And we can leverage them, we can basically utilize them on hourly basis in terms of please do suggest how I can do this better, how I can improve my project policies, processes of this enhancement, creation, task or activities and all. The different type of data analysis we might perform, a kind of alternative analysis. Like I talk about the biometric machine installation. What alternative do you have if you can't install that biometric on that column? You might choose an adhesive tape. Okay, something like Eraldite, Fevicol, or whatever available. Fevicol is for India, but yeah, overall in North America, you might choose whatever a really great adhesive or instant adhesive or something like that. Again, depending upon the policy and processes adopted by the manager, you might check it with the relevant cost, relevant efficiencies, and so on and so forth. Then the cost benefit analysis, which is economical review kind of scenario, where we try to work on something called lean management. And we're going to learn this lean management in our project cost knowledge area, where we try to do something like a cost benefit analysis. So if you improve the biometric to iris scanner, the cost is almost tripled. But does it benefit? Is it going to benefit the user, or is just a kind of even the benefit is kind of usage easiness, or it really looks good. So whenever enters the door, he is happy with all such type of advanced tool set implemented for a given office and something like that. Again, we need to understand the cost benefit analysis in terms of these things, and we're going to learn in-depth cost benefit analysis in our project cost management knowledge area. Again, this is a new concept called earned value management, normally called as EVM, or earned value analysis. You analyze in terms of whatever delivery you achieved and how much monetary benefits you have earned, and that's why it's called earned value analysis. We're going to learn based on the formula, and this is one of the most prominent question or a favorite questions of interviewer. Please tell me about earned value management, and we're going to learn that thing in couple of next sessions, where we try to understand how to calculate earned value management or earned value in terms of whatever we already earned. Then we have a root cause analysis. Many of us might have done these things, where you try to understand in terms of what is the root cause of a delay, or a repetitive delay, or a repetitive under quality deliveries, and so on and so forth. So root cause analysis is normally RCA meetings we have, where we go to the root of it and try to eradicate all such not so great experiences. And that's why we have a root cause analysis or root cause analysis review meetings, and so on and so forth as well. Then we have a trend analysis. Let's say you are working on a project for 2 months. The project is of around 6 months duration. Now you try to extrapolate what are the resources you have spent. If you keep spending on that type of trend, how much you are doing? Are we going over budget, under budget? Could we spend some more? How could we adopt to the best possible efficient lean management type of thought processes in terms of completing our work at hand? And that's how you progressively check the trends. the cost trend, the budget trend, the work performance trend, and so on and so forth. And there's a variance analysis. Variance analysis and the trend analysis goes hand in hand. Variance analysis, whatever I have planned, if I'm varying from that, if I'm changing those plans, then I might get worried. And I'll try to understand, is it a better variance or is it a dangerous variance? In many organizations, there are around 10-15 matrices we track in terms of how much work we need to we have to complete till yesterday, how much we have actual, so it's like budgeted schedule, actual versus actual schedule. And this is what you call variance analysis. It's a ratio between budgeted versus actual. So it's like budgeted hours to be spent or budgeted dollars to be spent for a given task to be completed, and then you get the variance of it. Or you try to understand, am I on the plan? Then it should be 1. So if 4 hours to be spent on the installation of that biometric machine and you spend 4 hours, it's good. If you spend 4.5 hours, well, you are doing bad. If you complete it in 3.5 hours, you are better. Now these type of trends and variance we keep getting, or we keep plotting from our day-to-day project management software which we use. It can be something like Microsoft Project, it can be something like Primavera, Jira, or there are a number of softwares, project management software adopted and used by the organizations. Again, decision making is also tools and techniques. There are various tools like SWOT analysis, fishbone diagrams, to basically make the correct decisions. And you normally analyze this decision making process with these set of diagrams or decision making tools, as we normally call them. Then of course we do have meeting for all such tasks like root cause analysis or checking out the alternatives in alternative analysis, the trend analysis, and various variance analysis. So here you might plan a meeting and revise these trends or variances in a project in our day-to-day life. Even in Scrum Meet, we do variance and decision analysis, trend analysis or decision analysis in terms of deciding the best alternative path, the most efficient path, the least costly path, and so on and so forth. Then you go to the let's go to the output of this monitor and control project work, where the work performance reports are basically the efficiency parameters of man material machine, the change request in terms of what is approved sanction in terms of adapting to the changes, the project management plan, any and all management plans which are to be updated in terms of making the project more effective and least costly day by day. Then we have project documents. Updates are cost forecast, issue logs, cost forecast in the sense, are we doing right? Are we doing correct? If yes, well, go ahead. If you are not, then we might need to correct our path. In terms of issue logs, any new issues because of these alternative we have chosen should be considered in our task list or activity list. Any things which we are doing better than others, how we can archive this knowledge for our organizational help for updating those lessons learned registers. Then risk register, any new assumptions, any new issues are basically popping any new risk, so that risk register need to be updated. And the schedule forecast, all these changes, wherever and whatever you accepted, there might be a schedule deviation, and you consider this schedule deviation in terms of schedule forecast. Is my Microsoft project plan or a Jira plan correct and intact? I can go the way I have planned, or are there any changes, and we need to apply such changes in case there are, if any. And that's how I progressively learn these things. I progressively evolve in terms of monitoring and control project work day after day, hour after hour. Does anybody have any question, confusion? I'm talking continuously for 10-15 minutes, I believe. Is that easy enough to understand?
Yes, sir.
Oh, let's do one thing. Let's stop here at this moment. I'll share the recording also. I'll release it to the YouTube. You can have a look at it. And in our next session, if you have any questions, any queries, please do ask. I'll be happy to guide them so that we can learn these things in depth. Now, these are the umbrella activity you're talking about. We're going to go to in-depth discussions for each of these entity. Might be something like milestone list, cost forecast, and so on. So, does that make sense? Does
Yes,
anybody
sir.
have? Yeah, thank you. Does anybody have any question at this moment, or could we close this session?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, ma'am. And please do read chapter 4 and have a look at this recording, and do let me know in case if I can help you understand better more. Okay. Thank you. Thanks a lot
Sure,
for
sir. Thank you. Yeah.
Good night. Bye bye. Take care.
Thank you, sir.
See you, ma'am. Thank you.